This happened 3 years ago. I had just come back home after years of investigating cults in Europe. I was 32 and thought returning to my late grandmother's house would bring me some comfort. I guess I was looking for a way to shake off the dark memories, but it didn't turn out that way. I've never stopped thinking about it. The neighborhood felt different once lively. Now it was a ghost town with empty houses and wild grass. My grandmother's home creaked as I walked in. I thought the familiar smells would comfort me. They didn't. I put my bags down and glanced around. I felt like a stranger on my first night. I found an old journal in a dusty corner of the attic. I thought I had tossed it long ago. I flipped through it and saw one line repeated several times. Don't go home. My skin crawled. I shut the journal and tried to forget it. Days passed. I noticed strange symbols carved into the trees around my house. At first, I thought it was just kids messing around. But they felt different, ancient maybe. They gave me chills. At night, I heard faint chanting through the window. It was soft but unsettling. I couldn't shake the feeling it was something more than just my imagination. One evening, I stepped outside to clear my head. The air was thick, almost suffocating. I felt something shift behind me. I turned but saw nothing. I rubbed my eyes, questioning my sanity. I heard rustling from the bushes. My heart raced. I strained to see if anything was out there. Just shadows. That night, I saw them, shadowy figures moving through my street. I pressed against the window, chills running down my spine. I wanted to call someone, but my phone wouldn't work. I felt trapped. The chanting got louder, like it was coming closer. Could someone really have followed me from Italy? I kept asking myself if I was losing it. Then I thought about the journal again. Fear slithered down my spine. The next night, I heard a knock. I froze. I didn't want to answer. Something told me I shouldn't. I waited, heart pounding. The knock came again, this time urgent. Mark, a voice whispered. I know you're in there. I recognized the voice, and dread washed over me. I glanced toward the door, my breath quickening. I felt eyes on me from the darkness. Who is there? I finally said. Silence hung in the air. I thought about not opening the door, but part of me needed to know. I hesitated, my heart racing. I reached for the doorknob, trembling. I didn't know if it was fear or something else pushing me forward. When I opened the door, I faced the dark. The creeping dread clawed at my chest. I stepped outside, scanning the shadows. There was nothing there, just the chanting getting louder, echoing in my ears. I stepped backward, slamming the door shut. I pressed my back against it, my mind racing. They were coming for me. I was sure of it. I felt like I had brought something home, something I couldn't escape. The next morning felt heavier than the last. I woke up, drenched in sweat, the haunting echo of the chanting still fresh in my mind. I glanced around the room, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the corner. The sunlight cutting through the window felt hostile, rather than comforting. Determined to shake this off, I decided to take a drive. Maybe a change of scenery would help. I drove through the desolate streets, passing dilapidated houses and overgrown yards. It felt like driving through a graveyard of memories, each corner reminding me of when I was a kid visiting my grandmother. But there was no nostalgia directing me today. Just uneased. As I turned onto the main road, I spotted the town store. I hadn't been there yet, and figured I could ask about the strange symbols in the woods. Maybe someone would have some answers. I parked the car and walked inside. The bell above the door jingled, but the place was empty. I called out, "Hello? Is anybody here?" A few moments later, an older man appeared from the back. He looked like he'd seen better days, his face weathered by time. "You're new around here," he said, squinting at me. "Yes, just moved back into my grandmother's house." I hesitated, not sure how to lead into it. I wanted to ask about those strange symbols outside. His expression hardened. "You should stay away from those woods, son. They're not what they seem." "Why? What do you mean?" I pressed, feeling like a child being warned about a monster under the bed. That he glanced around, as if afraid someone might overhear. "People who go into those woods don't come back the same. Or at all." "What do you mean by that?" I asked, my curiosity overcoming my instinct to be cautious. He sighed and leaned closer. "The townsfolk used to talk about rituals, old beliefs." He hesitated, then added, "Cult-like activity. If you're hearing things, it's best you leave it be." Before I could respond, he turned away as if someone had summoned him. I felt frustration boiling inside me. Fear and uncertainty were suffocating me. I had survived the darkness of the cults. This couldn't be worse, could it? I decided to leave. But as I stepped out, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. I looked back at the store. The man was staring at me through the window, his expression unreadable that I drove back home. I had to know more about those symbols. Maybe they held clues. I scrapped any plan to put this behind me. As I approached my house, I caught sight of something near the trees. Drawing closer, I felt a chill run through me. That was when I saw it, a symbol, a large one carved into the trunk of an oak. It looked like the ones I'd seen before, but there was something else. A small pile of stones was placed at its base, arranged in a circle. I bent down to examine it, and that's when I heard the whispers again. This time, they were clearer, calling my name. Mark. Fear gripped me like a vice. I stood up, scanning the woods frantically. I felt something shift behind me. I turned, and the air turned cold. Something was out there, and it was looking for me. I turned slowly, breath hitching in my throat. The woods were thick and dark, the branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching out to me. A movement caught my eye, a fleeting shadow darting behind a tree. I squinted, trying to focus, but all I saw was emptiness. Hello? I called out, my voice shaking even as I tried to sound brave. The only answer was silence, thick and suffocating. That I took a step back, heart pounding in my ears, and then, as if on cue, the whispers returned. Mark, come, join us. Each word felt like a chill creeping into my bones. I wanted to run, to escape back into the safety of my car, but something held me in place. Curiosity? Foolishness? I didn't know. All I knew was I had to uncover the truth. I had to see this through. Taking a deep breath, I stepped closer to the symbol carved into the oak. It was intricate, spirals and lines intertwining, forming a pattern I felt I should recognize. Kneeling down, I brushed my fingers over the stones, feeling the coolness beneath my fingertips. It was then I noticed something, a glint of metal half buried in the dirt. I dug a little and pulled out a small pendant. It was shaped like a crescent moon, with several overlapping circles etched into its surface. My heart raced. Had someone dropped this here? Was it part of a ritual? As I examined it, I felt a surge of energy, as if it was somehow alive. That I clutched the pendant tightly, and for a moment, the whispers grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. Mark, we are waiting. Startled, I jumped to my feet. The feeling of being watched intensified, prickling at the back of my neck. I spun around again, scanning the tree line. This time, I saw a figure standing at a distance, barely visible behind the trunks. My heart froze. It was a man, dressed in tattered clothing. He blended seamlessly with the shadows. His eyes glowed faintly, piercing through the gloom. I could see the contours of his face, lined with age and weariness. He wasn't moving, just watching. Who are you? I yelled, feeling both defiant and terrified. The man didn't respond. Instead, he raised a hand, pointing toward the woods. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I was rooted to the spot, caught between fear and a desperate need for answers. Then, as if sensing my hesitation, he stepped forward, disappearing and reappearing in an instant. The woods seemed to come alive with his movement, branches creaking and leaves rustling. Leave this place, he whispered, but his voice echoed in my mind, a command mingled with an unsettling sense of longing. Before I could gather my thoughts, he vanished into the trees, disappearing as quickly as he appeared. A part of me wanted to follow, to demand answers, but the other part, the part that felt the weight of unease, warned me to stay back. That I glanced at the pendant in my hand, now feeling heavy. I had uncovered something, but what? And who or what did that man represent? I took a step back toward my house, gripping the pendant tightly. I wouldn't let this go. As I turned to leave, something rustled in the bushes behind me. I looked back and saw shadows gathering, dark forms emerging from the depths of the forest. They were coming for me. The figures moved closer, their shapes shifting and melding together like dark smoke. I could barely make out faces, twisted expressions, hollow eyes. Panic surged through me. I turned sharply and sprinted back toward the clearing. Branches clawed at my arms as I ran. I focused on the path ahead, heart hammering. I could hear their whispers now, louder and more urgent. Mark, join us. The sound twisted around me, drowning out the rustling leaves. The night itself seemed to breathe their words. That I reached the edge of the clearing where my car sat like a beacon of hope. I fumbled with the keys, my hands trembled, sweat making them slick. When I finally got the door open, I practically leaped inside, slamming it shut. I locked the doors, breathing heavily, trying to gather my thoughts. But then I felt a tug at the pull of the pendant around my neck. I looked down at the crescent moon, its cold surface staring back at me, and a sudden realization struck me. What if it was calling them? What if it connected me to whatever was out there? I glanced at the woods just in time to see shadows flit back and forth, something darting before disappearing into the darkness. Was it the man? Had he sent them? Questions swarmed in my mind, crashing together like waves. But one thing was clear. I couldn't stay here. I started the car, the engine roaring to life, and shifted into gear. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The clearing grew distant, yet the oppressive feeling of being watched lingered. I drove aimlessly for a while, trying to shake off that eerie sensation. But then I remembered my phone. I dug it out, hoping to reach someone. The screen lit up, revealing an array of missed calls and messages from 2 friends. I opened the latest one. Mark, where are you? Everyone's worried. Come home. I hesitated. Home felt like a safe haven, but I couldn't shake off the events of the night. I couldn't escape the thought that whatever was in those woods, whatever had been watching me, may not let me rest so easily. Still, I needed support. I needed to talk about what I'd found, the pendant, the man. So I turned the car toward Jake's place. He would listen. He had to. As I drove, the shadows of the woods faded behind me, but the whispers clung to the air. I felt a pull toward the pendant, an urge to examine it more closely. I pulled over in a gas station lot, the faint glow of the lights offering some comfort. Heart still racing, I held the pendant up to the light. That was when I noticed a tiny engraving on the back. It was a single word, sovereign. A chill crawled up my spine. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was important. I quickly pocketed the pendant again, casting a wary glance around. I needed to get to Jake to figure out what all of this meant. But as I turned the car back on, a movement caught my eye again. Standing at the edge of the lot, illuminated by the harsh glare of the station lights, was a figure. Another shadow, watching me. I froze, heart thudding in my chest. The figure didn't move, just stood there, watching. I felt exposed, vulnerable behind the closed car door. Was it one of the shapes from the woods? Or someone else entirely? I squinted, trying to make out the details. It was a man, tall and cloaked in shadows. His face was obscured, but I could feel his gaze like fingers tracing my skin. I grabbed my phone, ready to call for help or at least snap a picture, but my hands were shaking too violently. Then he took a step forward. My instinct screamed at me to drive away, but I couldn't make myself move. Something about him felt familiar, but not in a comforting way. The pendant felt hot against my chest, and I was sure it was reacting to him somehow. The man raised a hand, as if to signal me. Mark, he called out, his voice low but clear. You can't run from this. The chill that crept over me made my skin prickle. I hadn't told anyone my name. I pressed my back against the seat, anxiety clawing at my throat. How did he know my name? Who are you? I shouted, my voice trembling. What do you want? He took another step closer to the light, and that S when I saw it a necklace, identical to mine, but it held a twisted version of the crescent moon. My heart dropped. I felt connected to him, tied by this strange symbol I barely understood. He was like me, but darker somehow, as if he were a reflection of everything I'd just barely escaped. Come, Mark. I'm here to help you understand, he said, his voice soft, but with an underlying urgency. Help? Was that what this was? My legs felt heavy, a mix of fear and intrigue holding me captive. I glanced back at the gas station, trying to gauge if anyone else was around. But it was just the flickering lights and the hum of the night. In that instant, a flicker of rage surged through me. I didn't want to be a pawn in someone else's game. You brought those things into the woods, didn't you? I shot back, anger resonating in my voice. You're the reason I'm being hunted. His expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of recognition in his eyes. You don't understand. They're looking for the sovereign, and you've got something they want. I swallowed hard, trying to hold on to my defiance. I don't care what they want. Suddenly, the lights above flickered and went out, plunging the parking lot into darkness. I cursed under my breath, reaching for the keys, suddenly feeling the urgency to escape. I glanced back, and he had vanished, just gone. The night felt alive, and the whispers returned, echoing in my mind, louder and more insistent. I slammed the car into gear and sped out of the lot, the tires screeching. but the shadows seemed to close in around me, as if I was being chased even now that I needed answers. But the only thing I could think was that there was no escaping this whatever it was that had started. It wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The car's headlights cut through the darkness like a knife, illuminating the road ahead. I drove fast, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Every muscle in my body was tense, and my eyes darted around, half expecting shadows to leap out at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the man was behind me. I glanced in the rearview mirror over and over, but there was nothing, just an empty road stretching behind me. That I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The memory of his voice lingered in my mind, echoing, "They're looking for the sovereign." I had no idea what he meant, and that terrified me more than the encounter itself. It felt like I had stumbled into a world that was never supposed to be mine. After a few minutes of driving, I spotted an old diner up ahead. The neon sign flickered weakly, but it felt like a beacon in this suffocating night. I pulled into the parking lot, the tires crunching on the gravel, and quickly parked. The diner would be a safe place, right? I stepped inside, the bell jingling above the door. The scent of coffee and greasy food wrapped around me. A handful of patrons sat at the counter, their heads down, lost in their own worlds. I chose a booth at the back, needing to disappear for a moment. I slid into the worn seat and looked around, still on edge. The waitress approached with a tired smile. "What can I get you?" she asked, her voice soothing in the chaos of my mind. "A coffee, please," I replied, trying to sound calm. I needed to think, to figure out my next move. As I waited, I pulled out my phone and searched for anything about the man, the crescent moon, or the word sovereign. Nothing but vague references to myths and legends. I cursed under my breath, frustration bubbling up. I was on the brink of tossing my phone aside when a sudden movement caught my eye. Sitting at the counter, a man with dark hair and a worn leather jacket stared at me. His gaze was piercing, and he had an unsettling familiarity that sent shivers down my spine. Slowly, he raised his hand and pointed at me, not aggressively, but like he recognized me from somewhere. I looked away, my heart racing again. "Your coffee," the waitress said, setting the mug down in front of me. I took a sip to buy myself time, but my focus remained on the man. He was already standing and making his way to my booth, sauntering as if he owned the place. Panic surged in me. "What did he want?" "Mark," he said, his voice smooth, but there was an edge to it. "You've made quite a stir. We need to talk." Before I could respond, the lights in the diner flickered erratically. The laughter and chatter faded into an uncomfortable silence. My instincts kicked in, an overwhelming sense of dread rising. I needed to get out of here. That's when I saw it through the windows, shadows shifting outside, dark forms creeping closer. My pulse quickened, panic flooding my senses. Someone was coming, and they were already here. "Get down," I shouted, instinctively grabbing the man and pulling him with me under the table. He was taken aback, but I could see it in his eyes. I wasn't the only one who sensed the danger approaching. I crouched under the table, my heart hammering against my ribs. The man beside me stiffened, eyes wide with confusion, but I couldn't focus on him right now. I glanced toward the windows again, the shadows drawing closer, moving with a deliberate slink. Outside, shadows morphed into shapes. Dark-clad figures loomed as they approached the diner with an uncanny calmness. I felt the weight of fear settle in my chest, constricting my breath. I couldn't see their faces, but their intent was clear. They were here for something, or someone, and that someone could be me. "Who are they?" the man beside me whispered, his voice low. "I don't know," I admitted, my mind racing. "But we need to get out of here." In my gut, I could feel the urgency rising. I had to make a plan, but as I looked toward the diner's exit, dread pulled me back. What if they were waiting? The waitress at the counter glanced our way, her eyes filled with worry, but she remained still, frozen by the electricity in the air. I wanted to shout at her to run, to do something. I shouldn't be hiding here. I should be pushing through the back exit, making a break for it. "Look," I said, suddenly grasping for any solution. "We need to distract them. You go that way." I pointed toward the back of the diner. "I'll create a commotion." He hesitated, brow furrowed. "Are you insane?" Maybe I was, but I couldn't stay here. I wasn't about to let fear dictate my choices. "Just trust me," I hissed, knowing full well I couldn't trust anyone in this moment, not even myself. Then I did something reckless. Grabbing the nearest salt shaker, I stood up, letting it slip from my fingers and crash to the floor. The sound cut through the tense silence like a gunshot. Everyone in the diner froze, eyes locked on me. "Go!" I yelled, as loud as I could. Now, in a split second, all chaos erupted. The man bolted toward the back, but the shadows outside moved quicker. I noticed the figures turning. Their attention shifted from the entrance to me standing there, frozen in my own storm of dread. Lights flickered again, and the atmosphere thickened with tension. "Get down!" A figure outside commanded, voice harsh and commanding. The glass door rattled as a foot hit it hard, and a crack spiderwebbed across its surface. "Oh God," I murmured, panic rising as the diner's quiet exploded. I glanced back at the counter. The waitress had ducked down, her scream piercing through the din mark. "Get out!" The man from before yelled from the back, his features now fraught with urgency. I darted toward the door just as it swung wide. A figure stepped through, dark and imposing, blocking my escape. I racked my brain for a way past him, and that S when I saw it on the back of his jacket, a symbol. The crescent moon was stitched there, just like the man I had encountered earlier. The realization hit me harder than a punch. They were all connected, and they were all here for me. A chill raced down my spine as I dropped into an instinctive crouch, readying myself for the fight or flight option that loomed ahead. I didn't know who they were, but I knew I didn't want to find out. I felt the air thicken as the figure in the doorway towered over me, casting a long shadow that chilled my already racing thoughts. He wasn't just blocking my escape. He was the wall between life and whatever hell awaited behind him. The crescent moon insignia loomed, a silent guarantee that I was in way over my head. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper, more a plea than a challenge. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward, the sound of his boots hitting the floor blending with the chaos in the diner. I had to make a decision. The other figures were still outside, their silhouettes shifting beyond the fractured glass door like a pack on the hunt. I realized that if I stayed here, there would be no way out. I had a fleeting image of the man who had run to the back. What if he was already in danger? The waitress, the customers, it was all too much. I scanned the diner for anything that might give me an edge. My eyes landed on the kitchen door, slightly ajar. One chance. With all my might, I pushed off the floor. I wasn't going to let fear dictate my fate. That I darted toward the kitchen, adrenaline propelling me forward. I could hear the figure behind me react, but I didn't look back. I crashed through the door, the kitchen's warmth engulfing me as I raced past the grill and the prep tables, items clattering behind me. The kitchen was smaller than I had hoped, but there was an exit toward the alley. I made a beeline for it, glancing over my shoulder just once. The dark figure was in hot pursuit, his expression obscured but his intent crystal clear. I flung the door open, the cold night air hitting my face like a slap. The alley was deserted, and I felt a surge of hope, but it was fleeting. I took off running, my feet pounding against the uneven pavement. That's when I heard footsteps echoing behind me. They were relentless, gaining ground. Maybe I was running toward the end of my rope. Panic bubbled up inside me, threatening to take over. I needed to find somewhere to hide, somewhere they wouldn't think to look. To my left, I spotted a dumpster, half hidden in shadows. I dove behind it just as heavy boots rounded the corner. Holding my breath, I pressed against the cold metal, praying they wouldn't see me. The footsteps stopped just a few feet away. I peered out from my hiding spot, watching as the figure slowed, scanning the alley with cold precision. "She can't have gone far," he said, voice low and gravelly. Was it just me, or did I sense something different in the tone? It felt almost familiar. A chill ran down my back as I wrestled with the thought. Who were they, and why did that voice sound like it belonged to someone I knew? Suddenly, a glimmer of movement caught my eye in the shadows. Someone was coming. A new figure emerged, their presence like a dark flame against the fading light. I felt dread clawing at my throat. My heart raced. What if they were with him? Another voice cut through the night, one that had the power to stop me cold. "Mark, where are you?" That name echoed in my mind. They knew me. They were looking for me. A low growl of frustration came from the figure in pursuit. "She's here somewhere. Keep looking." My pulse quickened. I had to move, but the alley was closing in around me, and I didn't know if I was running towards safety or right into the jaws of a trap. I clutched the metal dumpster, its coldness seeping into my palms as I tried to steady my breathing. The darkness felt heavy around me, and every sound seemed amplified. The footsteps were still there, closer now, and I had to think fast. "Mark, we need to get out of here," shouted the new voice. I recognized it instantly. It was Sarah, my childhood friend. But what on earth was she doing here? Did she know somehow? I peeked out again, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure in pursuit was still searching, but he seemed distracted now, glancing at the corner where the alley opened up into the street. If I could just slip away before they all converged, I might have a chance. "Mark," Sarah called again, her voice laced with urgency. "We're not safe. We have to go?" I hesitated. Should I reveal myself? What if the figure was right, and the moment I stepped out, he would grab me? But then again, hiding away like this wouldn't save me either. Just as I made my choice, I heard the muffled sound of more footsteps approaching from the street. That was it. My heart sank. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, swarmed by shadows. "Simon," Sarah, the gravelly voice called again, annoyed now. "She has to be here." Gritting my teeth, I made a decision. I needed to know what was going on. I pushed myself out behind the dumpster, ready to confront whatever fate awaited me. "Sarah," I yelled, my voice breaking through the chaos. I could see her face light up, relieved or surprised. I couldn't tell. She turned toward me, eyes wide. "Mark, thank God. We have to stick together." Before I could respond, the figure in pursuit snapped his attention back to us. "There you are," he growled, stepping forward like a predator. I barely had time to react before Sarah moved. She lunged toward him. "Run!" she screamed, but I was frozen. I was caught between the urge to flee and the need to help her. In that split second, more people piled into the alley behind the dark figure, two more of them, their faces bleak in the moonlight. I could see the crescent moon insignia emblazoned on their jackets. My gut twisted. They weren't just hunting me, they were hunting us. "Where's the backup?" one of them shouted. I couldn't take it anymore. Adrenaline surged through me. I grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her back toward the exit of the alley. "This way." Together, we sprinted, dodging the cold fingers of danger clinging to our heels. My thoughts raced. I couldn't believe she was here, and I couldn't fathom how the hell she had gotten caught up in this nightmare. As we burst through to the street, a blinding light hit us. I squinted, and then everything went dark. I heard voices shouting, but muffled, disoriented, I felt hands grabbing me. A flash of fear gripped me, but I couldn't tell who was who in the chaos. I fought against the grip, desperate to break free. And amidst the turmoil, I suddenly remembered. In the archives, I found something hidden, something that could change the game completely. That thought slipped through my mind like a dream, leaving a feeling I couldn't shake. "Mark." Sarah's voice cut through the confusion, and then, just like that, I felt myself being torn away from her, pulled deeper into the dark. I don't remember much about the struggle, just snapshots of chaos, a bright light, shouts, and the feeling of being held down. But suddenly, there was stillness, like the world had hit pause. I found myself alone in a dimly lit room, the air stale and tinged with something metallic. I blinked at the ceiling, my heart racing, trying to get my bearings. The faint sounds of muffled voices echoed from beyond the door. Straining to listen, I couldn't make out the words, just the rising swell of tension. I knew I had to move. Panic surged in me as I assessed my surroundings. I was sitting on a cold, concrete floor, hands bound, but the ropes were thin, barely more than string. I twisted my wrists, feeling the fibers give slightly. It was a sliver of hope. As I worked the knots loose, my mind raced with possibilities. Where was Sarah? Had they taken her, too? A deep sense of dread settled in, a feeling I couldn't shake off. Were those shadows still stalking me, waiting to close in? I finished freeing my hands just as a loud thud echoed from the door. They were coming. I had to be ready. Quickly, I scanned the room. There wasn't much to work with, just a couple of crates stacked in the corner and an old, rusted metal chair. I crouched behind the crates, my chest tight with anticipation. The voices from outside grew louder, but still indistinct. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, a fire igniting in my veins. Suddenly, the door swung open. A tall figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the harsh light from the corridor. "Mark," he said, his voice eerily calm, "we need to talk." I recognized him instantly, the man from the gas station, the one who had pointed at me. His face was shadowed, but there was no mistaking that crescent moon pendant hanging from his neck. Fear and anger flared inside me. "Stay away," I shouted, forcing my voice to sound more confident than I felt. He chuckled, stepping into the room fully. "You have no idea how deep this goes, do you? You're involved now, whether you like it or not." In that moment, I felt the bind of fear turn into a rush of defiance. I didn't want to hear about fate or destiny. I wanted to fight for my life. "What do you want with me?" He stepped closer, eyes shimmering with an unsettling light. "The sovereign calls to you, Mark. You're tied to something larger than yourself. They know you have it." I remembered the pendant, its weight against my chest during the chaos. What does that even mean? Who are they? His expression shifted, growing serious. "You're marked for this. We protect the balance between the worlds. You've tapped into something powerful." He paced the room, the shadows splitting around him. "When you took the pendant from the woods, you awoke something. And they want to claim it." I shook my head, trying to process it all. His words echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. Was it all real? The shadows, the whispers, the things in the woods? But I didn't have time to figure it out. All I knew was that I needed an escape. Just then, the door behind him burst open, and two figures rushed in hooded, cloaked in darkness, their intent clear. "He is here," one of them shouted, lunging toward me. I acted on instinct, diving sideways, knocking over a crate in the process. Rough hands grabbed for me, but I kicked out, feeling a surge of adrenaline as my foot connected with the stomach. There was chaos, shouting, and suddenly a blinding light flooded the room. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline pushing me into action. As the figures stumbled back, I seized my chance and raced past them, the door looming ahead like an escape route. I barreled through, not looking back. I surged down a hallway, praying it would lead me out. The air was electric, thick with something unnameable. I sprinted past rows of doors, shadows flitting in my peripheral. The whispers grew louder, echoing through my mind. They were real, and insistent. "Mark, come back." I slammed through a door at the end of the corridor and found myself in a dimly lit room filled with bookshelves. I felt something shift inside me, a pull, and I hesitated, a glimpse of moonlight playing across the words carved into a large tome resting on a pedestal. It felt familiar and daunting, like a puzzle piece I didn't want to place. "Mark," a voice echoed from behind me. I turned to see Jake, my old friend from back home. Relief washed over me like cold water. "I thought you were gone. We need to go before they find us." "Sarah, my friend Sarah, she's still out there." Jake's expression hardened, and he stepped closer. "This isn't just about her anymore. We have to escape." I hesitated, glancing between the doorway and Jake's pleading face. The weight of the pendant felt heavier against my chest. "But I can't just leave her. Not everyone you meet is a friend," he said. "You'll only endanger her more. We have to move." Dread settled heavy in my stomach. I wanted to reach out to Sarah, to help her, but the shadows were closing in, and I could feel the weight of their presence. Finally, time slipped through my fingers as the hall filled with bodies cloaked in shadows. They were here, beckoning from the edges of darkness where I could not follow. I wasn't just running away. I was running toward unanswered questions that would haunt me for years to come. Jake grabbed my arm, and together we dashed down the corridor, racing against fate, against the whispers that demanded my return. We didn't know what awaited us outside, but the shadows had lingered long enough. As we burst through the main door and into the night, a sense of impending clarity washed over me. Who were the shadows? What did the pendant truly mean? Would Sarah be all right? But there were no answers. Just the sound of the night, dark, mysterious, and alive with uncertainty. I might have escaped, but I carried my questions with me into the unknown, the shadows lurking behind, whispering promises I couldn't yet understand.